Alright, welcome back to another one of these videos. I need a better way of starting these, don't I? Speaking of better, I wasn't 100% satisfied with the first video. It's a bit jam-packed with information, like a crash course on steroids or something. I thought maybe I'd make a new one that's a little bit more relaxed and casual and interactive. I don't want to do live because that sounds like a nightmare, but I'll definitely reply to all comments. Oh, and I also made a 30-minute video with a different narrator, but I'm not sure if that one is any good. Let me know what's working and what isn't with this channel. I'm kind of flying blind, so I could really use some input. Anyways, let's start talking World's War and what we're actually world building. The year is 2513, and humanity has colonized everything it can get its hands on, which is our solar system. There's no warp drive here, no aliens, no Siths, no heroic home team to root for, just a lot of greedy empires and no lust for power, like a Game of Thrones in space or a Victorian-era Europe, or, I don't know, our current world. These empires are filed into one of three camps, creating a network of checks and balances between them. You know, like World War I. Very roughly speaking, it's Earth versus the new powers in the solar system, with the third camp being a bunch of neutral nations. It's a dystopian setting. Not grimdark. There's some good in the worlds, but there's no job safety, no healthcare. Nations are run by oligarchs and corporations. Ads are being beamed into your dreams, you know, like normal everyday life. ITU and the RZRR from Terra are running a lot of these things, like colonial masters of old. Exploitation, subversion, and scheming. They're different from each other, like West and East, where ITU is a union of Britain, US, Europe, etc. Descendant of UN, NATO, but now imperial. Think long live the queen type stuff. The RZRR are descendant of Russia and China, but again, the imperial version. A intertwined dual nation run by the golden emperor of Shinwashaya, the Machiavellian Raisogun. He's an older statesman who has finally gotten the nation back on track after centuries of decay, especially after his father lost Mars. He rules alongside the more timid Crimson Emperor of all of the Russia, Sebastian IV. If you're traveling through space, you'll probably pass through their territories. Go to the moon, and you're in the RZRR, or go to Jupiter and Callisto, and you're in the ITU. The moon of Callisto has been terraformed, by the way. A few of these celestial bodies have, during the long 500-year history, from us to them. Terraforming is a very expensive undertaking, probably the single most expensive undertaking, and it takes around 100 years to complete. That's why only Mars, Callisto orbiting Jupiter, and Nuevo Triton orbiting Neptune have been perfectly terraformed. We also have all Muhima orbiting Saturn and Titania orbiting Uranus. Things are a bit worse there, but they are still breathable worlds. So 6 open worlds in total in our solar system. Then after that, we have space colonies on every moon and jagged rock out there. This creates a rich system of frontiers, breathtaking landscapes and battlefields, the corporate police officer patrolling the neon-filled streets of the underground colony of Ariel, an unemployed miner in the Astra Belt smuggling weapons for the local crime lord on Pallas, a separatist rebel hacking through vines in the jungles of Callisto, running from the colonial forces. I guess now is a good time to introduce Mars and Venus, which are the opposition to these old bloated royal powers. Venus is a network of floating cities in the skies run by hardline militants. They are a nation of ship builders who broke free from the RZRR over 100 years ago. They united under a banner of socialism, but gradually power corrupts, and now they're more of a military state bound in honor culture, like an empire of Japan or a Sparta. Their culture is now isolationist and homogenous, but once came from immigrants of Mongolians, Han Chinese, Koreans, French, Russians, and some Nordic. This makes for a very unique nation, led by General Secretary of the Council of National Shipyards, Mergen Camus. He came up through the mean streets of Shenpil and is the first non-shipbuilder in over 60 years to lead the nation. He's also a sky blood, meaning he's never set foot on solid ground. He's a true believer in the then night state, and he's willing to do what he deems necessary to protect the Republic. Venus is growing in power, and their interest directly opposes their old colonial oppressors, which brings me to Mars. The Confederation on Mars has a similar story. They also rebelled against the RZRR based on much of the same grievances: increase in taxation after a long economic depression called the Big Dip, which fueled resentment amongst the working class. They were then, backed by Venus in the hopes of birthing another socialist republic, which all culminated in a bloody civil war, the biggest war outside of Terra. Shenping, a city of 20 million, was flattened in the process. However, against all odds, the Confederation won out, and they now ruled roughly half the planet. As with Venus, this faction also strayed from the promise of an egalitarian society, descending into a worse version of Venus. We're talking Soviet Union, North Korea, etc. This doesn't stop Venus from using them as a means to an end, though, using their military alliance to keep the RZRR at bay. They are now led by General Maxima Dynamov, a brutal and paranoid dictator who rules with an iron fist, employing secret police and surveillance to control the populace. So, yeah. World's War has a lot of nations, technology, and lore characters, and in its timeline, every year has at least one entry to make the history feel organic and logical. It paints a painting of imperial ambitions, drawing inspirations from British Empire, Imperial China, Sparta, Soviet Russia, but made new and cyberpunky in the space opera. I want to drop more lore like I did in the last video, but also work towards the actual war, which would be fun to do as some sort of week-by-week thing with a grand strategy of the war, and maybe make it somewhat interactive and taking notes from you guys, like a mix of a playthrough and those weekly World War II videos Indy Nidell does. I'm rambling now. In any case, stay tuned, and I'll be sure to drop a new lore video soon. Have a great day, and I'll see you back here next time. Signing off.